All right, hi guys. I want to walk us through this scholarly essay that essentially posits Frankenstein as a posthumanist text, or makes an argument for reading Frankenstein as a posthumanist text. This is an essay by Erica Quinones, an English and German Studies major at Washington College. The essay is called The Beginning of the End, Possibilities of the Posthuman in Frankenstein. And it's useful for two reasons, I think, for this class. One, because it might help us understand better why we're reading Frankenstein as a posthumanist text at all. And two, because it's a good sort of intro into talking about theory, talking about scholarly arguments, all that good stuff. I'm essentially going to read through some sections for you guys and then try and summarize and break down what's being said, hopefully in a way that is clear and understandable. Typically, when you get to college and you're reading like lots of theory and scholarly articles, the abstract is really useful. This is a place where the author will say essentially what they're going to write about in a short and easily digestible way. I'm going to skip this for now just because I'm jumping to specific sections of this essay, but in general, the abstract is a useful place to start when you're looking at scholarly essays, theory, etc. But for now, I'm going to skip down to this paragraph. So here you see our author is talking about the figure of the cyborg. The cyborg is a character, or here she's referring to the cyborg as a character or a figure in Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto. This is something we're going to read later in the semester. It's an essay, essentially an argument, a long book-length argument by a woman named Donna Haraway called the Cyborg Manifesto. Cyborg Manifesto, in which she makes some arguments about the cyborg as a figure, right? The cyborg is a posthumanist figure that therefore is not human and might be able to deconstruct or live outside of the things that typically hinder us as humans, or the social political structures that affect us as humans. So the author of this essay says the cyborg is divorced from the natural myths of humanity, and thus its cultural structures, such as heteronormativity, patriarchy, and white supremacy. Its status as a singular being with intersectional identities means that it is an individual who can easily act. To be one is to be autonomous, to be powerful, to be God. However, because the other is the one who holds the future, who knows that by the experience of domination, its intersectional identities imbue it with the desire to reform the political system and create an era of posthuman that benefits the whole group over the individual. So this is Donna Haraway's argument about the cyborg. The cyborg is not a human, therefore it is divorced from the natural myths of humanity. So it exists beyond the constraints of humanity, right? It's not human. It exists beyond the constraints of humanity. Therefore, it exists beyond the bounds or oppressions or constraints of cultural structures like heteronormativity, patriarchy, and white supremacy. Haraway argues the cyborg, not human, therefore not subject to the various oppressions and cultural, political, social constraints of the human. She also argues that the cyborg's intersectional identities, or the cyborg's differentness, right, the cyborg's non-humanness, and distance from heteronormativity, patriarchy, white supremacy, imbue it or instill in it the desire to reform the political system and create an era of posthuman that benefits the whole group over the individual. So the crux of Donna Haraway's argument is that the cyborg is a really progressive figure. The cyborg is not human, therefore not subject to all of the oppressions of human culture and society. But the cyborg is othered The cyborg is in many cases created to be oppressed, right? Think about Alexa, Siri, and all the female gendered robots that we have made to do things for us. And therefore, the cyborg has the desire to change these political systems, to overthrow some of these traditional cultural historical oppressions, and create an era that benefits everyone. Does this kind of make sense? Because the cyborg has this unique identity as separate from all of the baggage that humanity has, it is uniquely positioned to create a very different, distinct, post-human society that's good for everyone. That's what Haraway argues. Thus, our writer goes on to say, the existence of Haraway's cyborg in a text like Frankenstein may signify the possibility for radical political change, the success or failure of which reveals the central structures of oppression within the culture in which the novel was written. So if we're connecting this to Frankenstein, our writer is saying that if we look at Haraway's cyborg in a text like Frankenstein, we see that because a cyborg is someone who might be able to create political change, there is that potential for Frankenstein's monster, the creature, to exist beyond the bounds of human constraint. And whether or not the creature successfully does that will be indicative of the political climate in which the text was written. So let's talk a little bit more here about the creature as the cyborg figure. The cyborg figure, again, existing beyond things like heteronormativity, patriarchy, white supremacy, but has this distinctive othered identity as being created by humans. So our writer says the creature becomes a potential cyborg figure through his embodiment of dichotomous identities and divorce from natural genesis. That is a very fancy academic way of saying the creature is a cyborg figure because he's not a human, right? He is created in his embodiment of divorce from natural genesis. He's not a natural born human. The creature is a being of physical, mental, and moral multiplicity, making him susceptible to fluid interpretations of humanity as he reflects the race at their best and worst, questioning what it means to be human. So the creature is literally a mashup of different human body parts, therefore kind of metaphorically reflecting, this author argues, the race at their best and worst. He's literally a combination of different bodies, and therefore poses the question about what it means to be human. The creature's multiplicity of human-inhuman interpretations arise in the description of his birth, in which the creature's concept and composition internalize the living-dead dichotomy, opening further interpretations along human-object-animal relationships. All of this stuff, living-dead dichotomy, human-object-animal relationships, this all is just, again, a fancy scholarly way of saying the creature is made of body parts. Is he living or is he dead? He's made of dead body parts, but he is animated. So he exists within this dichotomy, this duality, right? Is he human? Is he object? Is he animal? We're not sure. When conceptualizing his creature, Frankenstein seeks to create a new species by bestowing animation on lifeless matter in hopes of one day renewing life where death had apparently devoted the body to corruption. Labeling the creature's components as lifeless matter objectifies them, characterizing them as both inhuman and inanimate, like the clay that molds the golem. However, Shelley intertwines both the unhallowed damps of the grave and tortured living animals with the lifeless clay when describing the creature's conception, mingling the reader's understanding of the creature's origin and features with connotations of life, death, humanity, and ferality. While these attributes seem contradictory, their harmony in the creature's binary defining identity inscribes the cyborg potential into his body. Here's the critical point. There we go. So what our author is saying here is that we can't define the creature within the binary. The creature is not human, and it is not inhuman. It is made of human parts, It is described as being molded like clay, right? Lifeless matter. But it is also described by Mary Shelley, our author, in ways that make it feel human, animal. So it exists beyond the binary of human versus inhuman, right? The harmony of all of the ways that the creature is described, this combination of being described as lifeless clay, as animal, as a being, as an object, the combination of all of these different descriptions of the creature means that this creature has, quote, cyborg potential, according to this writer. So this creature might be an object of our application of the idea of Donna Haraway's cyborg in the text. This is a whole long, fancy paragraph that's essentially saying the creature is a cyborg. If we're thinking about Donna Haraway's philosophical work and what defines a cyborg, the creature is that because it exists beyond the human-inhuman binary. Yeah? Our writer goes on to say, if the creature's birth emphasized only animal or clay materials, a post-human possibility would not be accessible. Meaning, if the creature was described only as being made out of clay, or only as being made out of animal parts, then we would not be thinking about posthumanism here. But the inclusion of human remains deconstructs the core of humanism, assumed inherent human superiority. Frankenstein does not treat the creature's body with the reverence expected of human remains. So she's saying that Frankenstein's monster, the creature, is made of human remains, but is not treated by Victor Frankenstein, our mad scientist, is not treated with the same respect and reverence that a full human would get. Therefore, this is a post-humanist being, right? It is challenging the core of humanism, the idea that humans are at the top of this pyramid, at the top of this hierarchy, separate from animals or other beings. Therefore, this is a fundamentally post-humanist being we're talking about, right? The very existence of the creature challenges the human as a closed frame, deconstructs what it means to be human, posits the human as an open frame. Let's see. The equivalency of human remains and lifeless matter, their interchangeability with lifeless clay, and the bestowing of animation rather than life deconstructs ideas of biologically determined humanity because it does not differentiate between the ones living and the never born. Because the text treats human biological matter as not inherently human, a reader could assume that the novel subscribes to a more Cartesian understanding of humanity, prioritizing rationality over corporeality. However, Frankenstein's grammar, when describing his secret toil, deconstructs that barrier. Frankenstein says that he dabbled among the unhallowed damps of the grave or tortured the living animal to animate the lifeless clay when creating the creature. The coordinating conjunction or denotes both clauses as carrying equal weight. Thus, the death of an animal becomes equivalent to the desecration of a human, treating them with the same respect. So the author here is essentially going on to say the language that Mary Shelley uses in this text positions the animal, the inanimate, and the human all as being on the same level, therefore kind of muddling our understanding of what the creature is and making him something that can't be categorized as human or non-human. Fundamentally post-human, right? Fundamentally deconstructing what it means to be human, fundamentally challenging the human as sort of a closed identity or a closed idea. This creature is lifeless and alive, human and animal, and Shelley uses all of this language interchangeably to really muddle our understanding of what the creature is and how we might categorize the creature. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the bottom. Our writer goes on to say, he, the creature, is the perfect vessel to explore what constitutes a human and possibly radicalize the definition in his universe. The ability to radicalize is itself inscribed in his composition. I'm going to stop there. This is just sort of a dipping our toes into theory reading here. But the idea at the beginning of this essay is essentially, to sort of summarize, that The creature is an example of what Donna Haraway describes in her seminal work of theory as the cyborg. The creature is something that is not human, that challenges what it means to be human and the boundaries of what it means to be human. And the creature is fundamentally sort of uniquely positioned to potentially deconstruct a lot of systems of oppression within the human cultural, social, political structure. Hopefully this wasn't too confusing.